Hey everyone, welcome to our very first WALLxCHANGE. I'm Nicole, Director of Communications at the Wall Group, and this is none other than Brooke Wall, founder and CEO of the Wall Group and our moderator for today's conversation. Before we dive in, I just wanted to share a little bit of background about this series. This past January, the Wall Group launched the TWG Incubator, a mentorship program that pairs underrepresented artists with a Wall Group artist mentor. Some of you watching may have even applied. And we selected 6 incredible mentees. I really encourage you all to head to our Instagram to check them out. But we wanted to find a way where we could really share a part of this program more broadly with artists, and WALLxCHANGE was born. So each month, we're going to be hosting virtual educational sessions with influential artists and executives and discussing the ins and outs of the fashion and beauty industry. Today, Brooke is going to be chatting with hairstylist Chris Appleton and stylist Jeanne Yang to give you guys some insights on what it takes to become a successful freelance artist. We're going to be taking questions, so please send them through in the chat throughout the talk, and we'll get a few of them at the end. Before we bring up our guests, just want to give you a little bit of background. Chris is responsible for some iconic looks on J.Lo, Kim Kardashian, Dua Lipa. He's worked the Oscars, the Met Gala, the Super Bowl. He just worked at a presidential inauguration. And he's dropped his first hair product with Colorwell just last week. And then Jeanne Yang, you've seen her work on many red carpets and magazine covers. She has dressed Aquaman, Iron Man, Neo, 4 Supermans, 4 Batmans, and 3 Spider-Mans. Behind the scenes, she is a true fashion superhero. And you guys are really gonna love hearing from them today. So with that, I will turn it over to Brooke and welcome up Chris.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Brooke. How's it going?
It's going good. How are you doing over there?
Very good. I'm excited to do this. I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, well, let's get right into the questions and talk about how this all works so that people can learn and get to know you a little bit more and what we do behind the scenes over here. So let's start from the beginning. Normally when I'm interviewing an artist or talent, I like to sit with someone and really hear about where they first started in the industry, like sort of get really behind who they are and what their first experience was. So for you, what was your first job and what was the first responsibilities of that?
I mean, what, you want to go way back to the very beginning?
Yeah, like the very first entry into hair. Like, where did you work in a salon?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I'm obviously not born and bred American. I'm living in Hollywood now, but I'm from a small town called Leicester, which is in northern England. And I just naturally, even at the age of kind of 8 or 9, I used to do my mom's hair because I just loved the fact that creatively I could use my hands, but it was more about that after effect of making someone look good and see their reaction. So I knew I wanted to do hair. I got a job in a salon at the age of 13. I lied about my age. It was a hair salon in northern England called Leicester. It was a salon called Remy's. So it was this hair salon. I got the job, and I remember my very first day standing there. And, I was just sweeping floor at the time. But I remember observing people walking in and walking out very differently, and I was like, "This is what I want to do. This is going to be it. This is definitely where." And I found my place, and then there was just this natural progression of wanting to learn more. First of all, I wanted to be the best at blow drying. Then I wanted to be the best at cutting. I wanted to just keep pushing myself to like whoever was like the best at a particular thing, like the best blow dryer or the best hair cutter or the busiest stylist. I would monitor them. I'd watch what they did that made them good, what made them better. And I just was just like a sponge, and I just absorbed the information.
So first responsibilities, were you washing hair, sweeping the floor?
Yeah, literally. I mean, you didn't even get the luxury of washing someone's hair initially. It was sweeping the floor, making coffee, making tea,
right.
The real kind of hardcore jobs. I mean, I used to clean skirting boards with a toothbrush because that was just what you had to do. And then when you got into shampooing someone's hair, you were like a little bit more advanced, and then it went into, you could, train and do blow drying, and then, just
right
from there.
Okay, cool. We wanted to get into the nitty gritty because, people all think that it just happens instantly, and it doesn't. There's a lot of hard work. So with that, let's get into the next part, which is paying dues. There's no shortcuts to being who you are today, right? Like, I didn't wave a magic wand and make you Chris Appleton. Mm-hmm. You have to do the work, right? And it's a lot of hard work. Yeah. So tell us a little bit, can you break that down for us a little bit? That process of evolution into who you are today from that first salon.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because emotionally you don't ever really feel any different from what the one thing I've kept throughout my whole journey is I remember standing there at the age of 13 thinking, this is what I want to do. And the reason I want to do it is because you get to make people feel great and look great. I still have that innocence now of what I do and why I do it. The evolvement of obviously becoming, it's a long journey from Leicester to Hollywood. It's I didn't walk here, it was a lot of pushing and a lot of taking risks, taking chances, and really, I guess one of the key things I think really was probably not taking no for an answer. Along the way, you're so quick to be turned down, and I guess kind of be disheartened by the industry, or be disheartened by not being the best, or not being that advanced. And I think really what goes a long way is consistency, hard work, passion, dedication. I think they're the key things that really carried me through each and every step. And it was just little blocks all at a time. I qualified, and then I was, kind of more interested in shoots. So I would kind of do my own shoots. And then from that, I would, assist at Fashion Week. But, I would be up at, 4 a.m. I'd have to pay for my own hotel in some dodgy hotel outside of Paris because I couldn't afford to stay inside Paris. And, I'd have no sleep. I'd be there all on my own thing with my kit bag, and I'd only be passing pins. I wouldn't even get the luxury of doing a model's hair. I'd have to just pass pins. But I was watching. I was always watching. So every opportunity I had, I used it as a springboard to the next thing. And I just took that information and the next thing. And then I did a few TV shows, and then again it went flat. I was doing editorial, and then eventually word of mouth. You speaking to different people. I think social media definitely helped with the evolution of my work and showcasing who I was. And people start to look. The first time I ever worked with J-Lo, she said to me, I've had my eye on you for a long time. And I was thinking, well, how's J-Lo had her eye on me? I lived in England at the time, But people are watching, people are looking for talent, people are looking for someone fresh and someone new. And I think when someone is passionate about what they do, and when someone is dedicated, and when they push, I think that tends to come through. And in my experience, I've not met anyone that's successful in what they do and they have not had to push and grind, and there's a lot of grueling, painstaking mistakes you have to make along the way to really get somewhere. But and then one day people are all of a sudden like, you're doing really well. I've got this billboard up right now for these new products, and everyone's like, that's amazing. I'm like, yeah, it's great, but it didn't happen overnight. It's fantastic, and I'm so grateful. But everything has been, for the last 30 years of my life, a build up to that.
Yeah, I think what sometimes gets missed for artists or talent is that people are busy, and when people are successful, they're really busy, and they don't always have time. So it's a combination of you have a way of being pushy, but it's there's a gentleness to it, and a respect that goes along with it. But you keep hammering at where you want to go, right? In a way where you're not going to lose sight of where you see yourself being. And I think that that's a quality that I think a lot of managers or talent managers or talent agents look for, is somebody really committed to the journey of getting, because it is it's like, getting in the trenches every single day and just hammering away until you can get there.
And I think one of the things I just want to mention on one of the things you just said, actually, Brooke, which is so important, is never underestimate how powerful and influential what people say about you is, like the way you are around people. And it doesn't matter if you're an assistant, if you're whatever level you're at, be kind to people, be
Mhm.
patient. You can be put, you can push, and you can, you know, drive and be passionate, but you have to be respectful to people around you. And I think one of the key things is always try and be nice. Always try and just respect that someone else has an opinion, or someone else has a voice, and you have to respect that, because it goes a long way. And it's funny along the journey how faces come back round and people remember you from so and so situations, and it really does go a long way, and people form an opinion on you very quickly. So first impression is very important.
Very, very, and a continued impression of who you are. People have to want to hang out with you all day,
Yeah,
in what
absolutely.
you do, and it has to be all different types of people, because your career is not set in this mold where you're going into the same office every single day and doing the
Yeah,
same thing and working with the same people. You are working with a cast of characters every day that you don't know.
hmm,
So all of those personalities you have to be able to tolerate, you have to be able to celebrate, you have to be able to
definitely,
have fun with. And that's I think, an ability in itself, separate from the craft
definitely.
and hairstyling. I
Hmm.
think that just being able to enjoy people and pull out the best in people and allow them to bring it out in you is so important for this
Yeah.
profession.
Hmm.
So, you were passing pins in Paris and you did all of that throughout this time until now. Who's been like that you think back and say, that person really helped me become who I am today? Who is your biggest mentor, or somebody who you looked up to along the way?
It's funny, and it sounds really cheesy, and but it is genuine. I mean, the reason I really did this was because it did come back to when I was a kid. I did hair because I wanted to do it creatively as an artist, but the real addiction for me was making people feel great, making people's shoulders go back, making people feel like you've all had a blowout. When you go to a salon, you have a blowout, you feel like you walk out the salon, everyone's looking at you. Probably not, but you feel like you are. That it's so
What are
like
you talking about?
that.
Of course they are.
Of course they are, exactly. But that like inner confidence you can get, and that was on every level. Even when I did cancer patients, I'd see these strong, confident women come in, and that's why I started to do wigs, because I wanted to give them hair that looked as real as it could be, rather than this. Back then it was these really bad wigs, and I saw again, I gave them a bit of something that they felt like they could fight this disease. Where they were, like rabbits in headlights, and it gave them some strength. And I think, that all came from, my mom. So she was a big inspiration for me back then. And kind of, I'm glad I still have that now. And along the way, there's been different people. Like I used to look up to people like Vidal Sassoon. And then, different mentors have come and gone in my time. But, Brooke, I have to say, you've been a huge guidance to me in my career. And because
When I ignore you, I'm really good.
yeah, you ignore my calls, but I feel like it comes from a good place. Treat them mean, keep them keen. No, I feel like, you and your knowledge, and I try and listen to you when you speak, and I have a lot of respect for the empire you've created, because you've created this empire. You've become an incredibly successful businesswoman, and I respect that, and I look up to that. So I'll just listen to the way you talk, the way you handle conversations, the way you shut problems down very quickly and very simply without causing excess complications, and the things you've learned along the way. Like I will listen to, and I'll take that on board. And so I would say one of my mentors of late has been you, and how you've helped my career develop so much, from just being a hairstylist to becoming more of the direction that I wanted to be, which was a household name, so I could sell products and have my own kind of career, and not just kind of die off as that hairdresser that used to do Kim's hair or whatever. Because I felt like I had a voice. I wanted to help real women. I wanted to give to the masses. Like not everyone looks like JLo, but this is how this is the product I use, and this is kind of how you get the hair. And you've really helped translate that.
Yeah, I think for me, I think each individual has this in whatever profession you choose. It's almost like this arc, right, of a career. And there's the beginning, and there's the middle, and there's the exit.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to treat it almost like a mini business for each individual. and think about, okay, this is what I'm going to do to start, and I'm going to put all these building blocks in place to get to where I want to go, so that I can, in the end up with all that I want to accomplish. And it's different for everybody, because some people just feel the creativity of it all is so fulfilling. Some people want to have their own product line and, kind of have a vision of being global. So you have to be able to meet all of those things, or think about how to get to all of those places in order to fulfill that career. And I like looking at all of it. And I think with you, I definitely see the ambition, and I see the pure talent. Like, it's unbelievable. So it's been fun working with you, and thank you for saying that I'm.
No, I mean it. And honestly, we're probably never this nice to each other, but that's how I feel on the inside.
That's not true. We're pretty good to one another.
No, we are, but it's always, there's, it's not as though it's all roses. There's always things coming up that we're challenges, or and words of advice, or this is a better direction to go. It's usually a lot of a conversation of problem solving, and
and you get to be kind of in this business for as long as I've been in it, and you've kind of seen it all.
Exactly.
From having somebody out on a ledge, like literally talking them off a ledge, and realizing that things are not that dramatic. Yeah. So, okay, between freelance and trade hair, because I feel like there's a lot of people out there that don't really understand the nuances of our business as well, because there's so many different facets, and especially with hair. Because for hair, you have salon hairdressers, you have freelance hairdressers, you have movie hairdressers, are in the union, which is a whole other thing. So if you're doing character hair, it's so different than fashion hair.
Absolutely.
Doing celebrity hair, and then doing real women every single day. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So how did you decide that freelance and working with celeb and fashion was your bag, instead of doing trade hair, like becoming a because you could have gone either. You could have been a major trade hair stylist.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'll be honest with you. I did it all. I did both. In England, I built a kind of name in the hairdressing industry. I won British Hairdresser of the Year at the British Hairdressing Awards, and I won, it's called IT Award, like the next big thing in hairdressing. And as much as I loved the creativity of where trade took me, it starts to go off into this kind of sometimes like avant-garde kind of direction, or you're still creating looks, but it gets a little bit, it's less wearable sometimes. I still to this day love doing Mrs. Jones, who would come in every week for a blow dry, as much as I do J-Lo, because as long as that person feels great about themselves, looks great, I love the journey of it. But I think for me, I just creatively, what I was always so inspired about by, like, when I was a kid back in the day when Madonna used to do her, albums, and back then, before there was social media and before there was this demand for change all the time, she would have this vibe. She did the music album, and it would be cowboy hat, cowboy boots, and it would become a thing, and everyone would follow it. And I was always inspired by the power of transformation. And I think what led me to go into working in Hollywood, or working in the entertainment industry, was just because I love to create a look, and almost like a character or an alter ego, and the fact that it's just constantly changing. I'm really happy and proud that I did the trade, and I worked in the salon, and it's just a very different formula. But then even now, I think when I do like trade shows, and I love to give back and do educational experiences, or I do my master classes, I feel like I can relate, because I know what it's like to have a 10-day client back to back, and I know what they're saying when they said, well, you took Kim Platinum Blonde, but my client comes in and I've got 30 minutes and they say they want to spend $100. But I also can relate to that, because I know what it was like to be in that position. So I'm glad I did both. But I think honestly, I love the the transformation process of what I got to get to do now and the buzz of it. I think I'm into the buzz of it. It's exciting, and I love. It's demanding. It's really demanding, and it's huge sacrifice on life in terms of it's not a 9 to 5 job. It could be getting called at 12 o'clock at night or 5 in the morning. You've got to be there at whatever time. You have to be ready to drop and go. But I love that.
Okay, I think your camera's frozen or mine's frozen. I'm not quite sure.
Did my camera freeze?
Maybe not. Let's keep going. When you moved to LA,
Yeah.
was the business, how you sort of think about something and you envision it? Is it everything that you sort of envisioned this business to be about, or was it something completely different?
Hollywood, it's like the land of dreams, and you see so many weird and wonderful things along the way. And I remember when I first ever got here, I flew out for a job and I went off to see the Hollywood sign because, to me, it was such a novelty. And I don't know, I feel like it was definitely as I expected it to be, but it was just bigger and slightly more aggressive than I ever imagined it needed to be. It is a competitive industry. And I don't know if it's Hollywood or just as times have changed and Instagram and social media, but this constant, almost nerves that there's constantly moving. It's constantly changing. You've got to keep on top of that. You've got to keep moving. But I think it's like that with every profession. I just think that living in Hollywood, you're in the heart of it, especially in the entertainment industry, and you feel that, but. So yeah, I think it probably to be as expected. I didn't come to America knowing, I didn't think it was going to be a walk in the park, and it definitely wasn't.
Okay. It didn't disappoint though.
Oh no, not. I mean, listen, I would definitely say it's home now. I would say it's home, and there's something about Hollywood and Los Angeles that has this, for me, like a buzz about it. It has this energy which I feel excited about, and I think that's why I became, that's why I do what I do, and I do it here because. It just felt right. There's just this buzz. It's addictive. There's something about it.
Let's talk about the looks that you're known for.
Okay.
Like J-Lo, obviously, for Super Bowl was like off the charts. I mean, it went viral. It was insane.
Mm-hmm.
Kim's wet hair up the mat. What's it like working with talent for those major events and to collaborate, say, with makeup, styling? What is that? Can we nutshell that for people and kind of?
Yeah, I mean, listen, in a nutshell, insane. It's definitely always a collaborative experience. And I think you just have to be respectful that there's a whole team and you all have an element to the finished thing. But the end goal is to make that person look and feel their absolute best. Incredible. You've mentioned some amazing moments, and I'm just always a bit of a I'm very much into the job, but again, the women I work with, they inspire me. I'm inspired by their professionalism. I'm inspired by the way they treat people around them. Like Kim is the kindest person. It doesn't matter if it's an assistant or a top executive or whoever it is, she'll always ask their name and take that moment to introduce herself. And I think it goes such a long way, so always kind of taking that in. But yeah, on a whole, going back to your question, I think it's
how does the look come to be? Like, how does it get decided? This is the dress, this is going to be the hair, this is going to be the makeup.
Well, it's usually an involvement of, you will start off with the styling, because usually they'll have a fit in and there'll be maybe, I mean, if it's J-Lo, it's a bigger option of clothes. She'll be like, I like all of these 12 dresses. I'm like, Jen, come on, pick 2. She's like, well, I like all 12 and it could be any. So I want a hairstyle that's going to work for all 12. And I'm like, really? What's your favorite? So I'll be like, well, what's that favorite? But, she's amazing. I love her. But, it really is... starting off with the styling, with the clothes, and then it's a vibe. It's honestly a vibe. If it's a red carpet, you know, you're tending to not going to go for something too crazy unless it's the Met Ball, because those HD cameras pick up every strand of hair, every pore you've got. So, you know, you tend to go for something a little bit more polished, a bit more controlled. If it's a music video, you can go crazy, you know, because you've got control. You can pick shots. You know, you'll be filming for, you know, 2 days, but you're going to have, you know, 1 minute of footage. So I think it really depends on the job, but usually it will start with the styling and it evolves from there into something that's going to complement that, or, you know, either, you know, lift that and elevate the outfit to make it a bit more exciting, or you maybe sometimes have to take it down a bit because the outfit's doing a lot. So usually it starts there.
And so your first product, Money Mask, just dropped.
Yep.
How's that feeling?
Amazing. So proud to have my name on a mask. I'm really proud to work with Colorwell, Gail Federici, who, you know, is the head of Colorwell. She is her baby. You know, I have a huge amount of respect for, just from when she did John Frieda back in the day, and her knowledge on products is, to me, so inspiring. She knows her products inside and out. And we have a great partnership because I feel like I'm kind of like the fairy dust. I have an eye for detail. I have an eye for the visual, but she kind of technically knows, you know, what will work. She knows the science behind it all. So I think when you combine, I know what I want the hair to do. I know how I want it to look and feel, and I'll tell her that. And then she, you know, knows the formulation to bring it together into this mask that we brought out, a hair mask, a hair conditioning mask, which I'm really proud of. And, you know, like I said, just really grateful that I'm working with a great team of people.
And I think one other thing that would be interesting for people to hear is when you are represented at an agency and you have a manager, Clark, who we love, and she handles your world, right? I mean, she's got this calendar sitting in front of her with everything, everywhere you're going, everyone you're working with, everything that's happening in your life, your travel, your this, your detail. Is that difficult to allow someone to have control of all of that for you? Or are you a control freak? Or are you able to allow that? Do you trust her explicitly? How does that relationship work on the day-to-day?
I think it's evolved and changed. Initially, you know, when I first moved to America, I'd already done everything by myself. And it was just kind of like, I'd never found, I remember the first agency I went to in London, you know, they kind of laughed at me when I remember we got the first job and I was like, okay, guys, you know, this is it. We're going to kill that, you know, we're going to kill this. And they were like, you know, okay, just go and do your job and shut up. And it was for some flip-flop commercial. I know, it was terrible. But, you know, I think for me, when I moved to America, I went to different agencies and I spoke to, obviously, the Wall Group. And I remember joining. And it takes time to build a relationship with someone. It's been like being in a relationship. Initially, you're both excited, and then you get to see how it's going to melt, and that, you know, you either come out of it together or you walk away from one another. Clark and, you know, yourself, who's heavily involved in my day-to-day, run everything from social media, you know, YouTube, you know, all my celebrity clients, all my contracts and deals, collaborations. It kind of is my whole life. My whole diary day to day. It's huge. I have never trusted anyone like I trust yourself and Clark. And Wall Group is an agency because you've done nothing but, you know, help steer me in the right direction. And I think I'm a pretty confident, hot, focused kind of guy in terms of, I said hot. I mean, I was going to say hot-headed. It just said, I think I'm not hot-headed, but I'm confident knowing where I want to go. But, you know, I will always listen to what you guys have to say, because, you know, to grow, the one thing I've learned, and you definitely taught me this, Brooke, was to grow from where I was at. I had to grow my team and my world around me, because I cannot do it all. I can't do the YouTube, do JLo, do Kim, do manage all of that, do be everything. You know, if you want to grow, you really need great people around you who are experienced in what they do.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's rare. It's not as easy. It's like finding a partner. It's not just an easy thing. You meet a lot of wrong ones.
It's personalities. It's being able to, you know, get along and kind of see eye to eye in the day to day. And even if you get cut off on the phone because the schedule is so crazy, there's no one's offended. It's all fun because we're all doing our jobs and everybody's just jamming. But it's having that sort of feeling of they have your back, you know, you're out there in the field and you know everything's going to get taken care of.
Absolutely.
That's critical, I think. And then I guess just final like advice to people who are starting out in the business. Anything you want to throw out there as a final?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly would say, and I hope I could say this to my younger self, is never stop believing in yourself and never give up on the dream, because it is a dream, you know, that it really is. You can make your dreams a reality. And I guess at the moment, I'm now 37. I've done every aspect of hair you can imagine. I've sacrificed so many things, even moving countries to do what I do. But, you know, it's now I start to see, you know, some of the rewards, and that's really nice. But I think just believing in yourself and have a dream, have something that you think is out of reach and work towards it. And, you know, it's funny that when you put that in your way, that in your focus, you know, one day you realize you've reached that dream, and then you set your next one. But always have a dream and a goal.
Perfect. Good way to wrap this.
Thank you so much for having me on this. It's been fantastic.
Thank you, Chris. It's been great. Really good. Let's see if we can get the technology going here. Hi, Jeanne. Jeanne Yang is with us now, who is a force that not even Jason Momoa can mess with. Can you hear me?
I can totally hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. So we're switching from hair into styling with the great Jeanne. Let's start from the beginning of your career and tell us about your first job within fashion and how you got started, like the very beginning.
So I thought I wanted to be a politician. So I went and actually worked in a law firm, and thankfully realized that this is not what I wanted to do, but I didn't know what jobs existed in fashion. So I interviewed in New York, was offered a job to work at Vogue as a junior assistant, but realizing that there was no way I could live on the pay that they had, I wimped out and decided to stay in Los Angeles. So I thought, well, I could be a buyer because I've heard of that, and worked in a management training program for a department store that no longer exists. And thankfully was laid off. And while I was collecting unemployment, my brother said, you know, you really like magazines. Why don't you consider doing something in a fashion magazine? So I kind of worked for free and interned at a magazine. I was like, oh, well, this is really interesting to like, there's editors, there's stylists, there's all these people that it's another world that I didn't know anything about. And when I was at the magazine, you can see right here up at the top, that's a picture of Leonardo DiCaprio back in the day. He was really young and hardly very unknown, and we put him on the cover, and I really loved being a part of the editorial side. But what really jazzed me was like the styling. So I got to style a few shoots and worked my way up in the magazine. I was an editor. I was actually the managing editor as well as the associate publisher. But then I thought, I really want to do this styling thing. So I went to go work for a small clothing line. And at the time, my boss's boyfriend was like, we should do this thing called the internet. Let's do a website and you can style for the website. And we were the first fashion website ever. And that was probably before almost everybody who's on this listening right now is, you know, been born. It was like 27, 26 years ago. loved doing that.
Thing called the internet.
And basically from there, it became, you know, styled anything I could. I was doing magazine, shape magazine, exercise videos. And then I did like a few of these videos these are gold medals from Rivers Cuomo, from Weezer. I ended up doing music videos.
Who's behind you with the Marlboro?
Oh, that was actually just a photo shoot back in the day. I wish I could say I styled it, but it was a photographer who just, at the time, it was really cool. I ended up getting the opportunity to like get a lot of prints from a lot of cool photographers back in the day.
That is one of the perks.
So that was a fun fashion editorial that I ended up
hopefully
being gifted. And then, you know, from working with Rivers, what came about was like, I think it was like somebody said, hey, we need you to help on this photo shoot with Keanu Reeves. It's going to be for a movie about the future, but also kind of about the past. And it ended up being Matrix. And basically because I did a really good job of helping him and Carrie Ann and Jada and Lawrence, they called me back and said, we're doing a photo shoot with George Clooney, Matt Damon, Brad Pitt, Casey Affleck, Scott Conn. I mean, it was like, what? I have 20 minutes to get every single one of them dressed in 4 outfits. And that kind of like the Matrix and Oceans pretty much launched my celebrity career.
Right. Exactly. I mean, that was like launching into the stratosphere. And was there anybody along the way that taught you styling, that was your mentor? Was there someone that influenced you that you
know who really influenced me was actually Keanu. Keanu was, you know, being my first client, he'd already been pretty seasoned in fashion. So when we were looking at clothing, it was like, here, check out this button. Look at the way that this is made. I mean, I came from a little bit of a fashion background because my mom had a sewing factory. So I knew stitching, I knew construction, but he had traveled to Italy so many times and to England. So he would show me, look, this is a handmade shoe. And the way that this is a rope shoulder, this is a handmade shoulder. And so it wasn't that he showed me styling, he showed me quality. And I personally, like when you end up working with Matt, George, you know, and all those guys, one of the things that was really important, and I've always used it as my barometer for success, is that Jason Momoa looks nothing like Robert Downey Jr., looks nothing like Jamie Dornan, looks nothing like Nick Kroll or Keanu or, Taika Waititi. The thing that I always realized that I've been learning and mastering as a stylist is that I'd like to think that when I've done well, it's because those people become who they are to the 11th degree, rather than like me doing, hi, this is my style, and
right,
you know, styled by Jeanne Yang.
You pull out their style.
That's what a stylist, at least a celebrity stylist, should do.
Right.
I think that one of the biggest compliments I ever received was from a senior publicist saying, you know, Jeanne, the reason that we want you is because we want this kid to be a movie star, and you do movie star style. And I was like, really? I don't do movie star style. And I was kind of, at first I thought, do I do this boring classic thing? And they're like, no. What you do is you intrinsically find what makes that person special.
Right.
And that takes a lot of listening. It's not about.
Yeah. Gives them a quality of star because they're feeling their best.
You know, years ago when, a few years ago when Momoa was going to his first Oscars, it was like, okay, we want to do pink because that's his color.
No,
and I know he was scared to death. It was like, wait, I'm going to wear, I was like, we're going to do a pink suit, but we're going to do velvet and we're going to do a brown lapel. And his wife, who's amazing, was going to wear Fendi Couture. And I thought, yes, of course, Fendi, you know, they will be able to come up with something that will be perfect and amazing. And little did we know, as we were sending pictures of the outfit to Karl Lagerfeld, he had just passed. And I felt like how wonderful to honor him, you know, with this amazing suit. And, you know, I'd like to think that it was a really big catapult for him to like, when you're on the red carpet, right? You got to like.
The scrunchie and the suit and the whole thing. It was
it was funny because actually he wanted the scrunchie. And I remember saying like, look, we got to sew on the Fendi label. Didn't know that he was going to wear it on his hand and that you were going to see this beautiful like scrunchie that said Fendi and it was going to be a whole thing. And then like he didn't wear a shirt for the Vanity Fair party, which was like, I was like, no, we got him ready. I was like, you're not wearing a shirt. Like, of course not. So Yeah, no.
Okay, so are there any like key attributes you think an individual should have? They should be able to detect in themselves if they want to become a stylist. Is there anything that indicates that you could potentially have the skills to work in fashion?
So the one thing I would say, whether it's, I mean, Chris was totally right that you have to be kind, you have to be thoughtful, you have to be incredibly generous and understanding. But whether it's hairstyling, makeup, or styling, the biggest mistake anybody will make is in thinking it's about being fashionable and being stylish. I'd say 99.9% of what, and the reason why probably I am at the Wall Group, is that it is a business. And the thing that especially that people forget in styling is more than any of the other two careers, you have to be very business savvy, very aware of money. I know a lot of incredibly stylish people who've gone bankrupt doing what styling is. You are having to keep track of shipping, the amount of money spent on tailoring, the amount that goes in and out for tracking purchases, because at last minute you need a pair of pantyhose or you need, socks. If you don't keep up track of those receipts, there's been, I'd say, 4 or 5 gigantic stylists I've known that have gone bankrupt because they didn't keep track of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it is really important that you understand that it is a business. It doesn't matter how stylish and cool you are.
Yeah. And that you need to keep your receipts in impeccable order, and you need to be able to turn them in as fast as you can, right?
Yes, and then also that you need to be with a reputable agency that makes sure that they are going ahead and putting you together with somebody who's a legitimate, real client. I mean, one of the reasons why I left one of my first agencies was because they sent me on a job, and it was at a time when I really didn't have tons of money. I spent $1,200 of my own money, which literally was rent, and I didn't get paid not only for the expenses, I didn't get paid for the job, and it broke me. I had to literally go and beg my parents for money to pay my rent that month.
Yeah.
And that was it. I was like, I got to leave this agency. Why did you send me out with this kid who wasn't even a real client? Like, they took all my work product. They took the stuff we bought. And I will never forget that.
Yeah. So there's more than just also an eye for style and fashion, wardrobe. It's almost like you need to have a little bit of accounting, be a little bit good at accounting, a little bit good at math, and be very sort of organized and be able to run an office or a studio, styling studio, right? You have assistants too, more so than hair and makeup. Stylists generally have more assistants on payroll, right? So you kind of have to be able to operate, because for us, we feel from inside the office at the Wall Group, we're representing a mini business and brand. We're not just representing an individual. And so we will help people have the best tools, but you have to be really hyper organized in addition to understanding fashion, correct?
Absolutely. And with a stylist, what's different is the fact that, yes, we have the ability with which to do multiple jobs. That's partially why I have so many clients, because I'm prepping. I don't necessarily have to be on set for press events. I can go ahead and I do my fittings, I get them ready, I have an assistant pulling, and then I can send the pieces and I'm not there. Hair and makeup can only take one job at a time. I can take several, but that means even more organization, even more being on top of, and I know Ridley's probably listening thinking, Jeanne, you don't turn your receipts in on time. Who's my agent? But I have to tell you that, one of the things that's been really great is a lot of times being at the Wall Group, you are a lot of times will sit there and say, you know what? Jeanne is going out of pocket. We need you to front the money. And a lot of times you guys have been able to get the money ahead, or that if I'm turning in my receipts, I get paid my expenses really quickly. And that's invaluable when you're, I mean, when I had a $70,000 budget for the Oceans shoot, to put that on your credit card is really scary, because that was more than my down payment for my house. And knowing that I was able to get it advanced, it was, you know, it was
I mean, and
a huge deal.
It is hard. I mean, that's what's really hard when you're starting out, is getting with a reputable agency. It's also having a reputation yourself where people, it's almost like within our business, people won't mess with you because they know they need you in the future. And so we stand a better chance.
Relationship.
Yeah, a lot of people that are out there in the industry. And, you know, for us at the Wall Group, even from the beginning of the Wall Group, if we smelled that it was any individual or any business that wasn't, you know, reputable or solvent and we knew about, we'd ask for upfront payments easily, you know, rather
I mean,
than
one of the big things, I think, besides the financial element of having the security of knowing that you're sending me out on a real job, is also the element of having the relationships. When you're starting out, I mean, obviously I'm not at this point. I've been very lucky that I have a reputation and people know me, and then people don't, it's not a matter of,
don't take advantage.
you know, getting the job. But, you know, when you're starting out, to have people who say, trust me, the agents have relationships with the publicist or with the variety of different like ad agencies, where they'll say, you'll like so-and-so, they work with the producer, they know the publicist, and they say, so-and-so's not available, you can go ahead and try Jeanne. Or, you know, or being at an agency where it's like, Samantha McMillan is not available, and Sam says, hey, Jeanne, Mark Wahlberg has something. She knows I'm not trying to steal Mark. She needs help. I'm there. Great. Let me help you out. Or vice versa. It's been,
we do try and represent. We do try and represent. We did have a little bit of a, and this is real insider baseball, a rule at the Wall Group where we would only represent people who were really great people to work with, because, and are generous in every way with one another and kind to one another in the industry, because there's so much room for success and there is so much talent, and we want to enjoy our days. And
well,
we're very blessed and we're very fortunate to be in this business. So we want to be able to have laughs. And of course there's pressure. Of course there's craziness sometimes and things don't always go right. But in that, you want to know you've got people that think the same way and figure out the solutions as fast as possible rather than cause more problems, right? And that's why, to get into the Wall Group, I know how many people I've tried to recommend, and there's a lot of hurdles you have to jump over. And I think it's a good thing, because in the end, I think we all work so close together as little families that your reputation is very important. Every mistake that you make, anytime you forget or you have issues, you have a mark on your, you know, reputation, and you have a mark on the Wall Group. And look, I mean, everybody makes mistakes, of course. And the one thing I would say, by the way, of being a stylist that's different, is that you have to, the years of doing 80-hour weeks on music videos definitely taught me how to be as, you know, MacGyver-esque as possible. It's like, oh, we need a pair of boxers that are polka dots. I was sitting there literally with markers on a pair of boxers trying to print to make something really wacky and funny. Or like, so-and-so asked for, I don't know, a belt. And we're gonna run out of time. Let's keep going. Tell us the difference. This is, I think, really important too, because I do think there's a lot of misinformation out there about styling for a film, right? A character, and then styling for promoting a film, which is what you generally do, right?
Yeah.
When
yes.
What you talked about. So can you break that down a little bit?
So there's two very different things. I mean, when you're styling for a film, the big difference with a celebrity, at least an actor, unlike maybe even a musician, is that that's the only time they can be themselves. So when they're in the red carpet, I'm very cognizant of, first of all, who the demographic is and what it's for. So you want to be dressed appropriately. You want them to be dressed appropriately. Like with Kumail, when he was going to Comic-Con, it was the first release of like his new body. Like, let's make sure we are aware of showing off the guns and showing off all the work he's done. And I work with so many superheroes. We're always aware of that. When you're doing a movie, and on occasion, you know, when I've done a movie, it's really about character. Has nothing to do with who they are as a person. It has to do with what works for the script, what works.
It's not about knowing what the latest runway looks were and what's the hottest this or that. It's really about developing a character.
Exactly. And even then, honestly, on the red carpet, I'm very conscious about, I mean, I've had a lot of times where I felt like, oh, I'm going to do this. This is really cool. And then I learned to regret it because the person looks at it like 6 months later and it's like, why did we do that? To me, and by the way, the one thing I would say is that for film, it's almost always a costume designer. If you work with a person, maybe on the rare occasion that they want you to help them consult, it's still, you defer to the costume designer. The costume designer has a full story and a full picture. I am only doing usually the press event or the editorial, which is for a magazine or for a press junket. So you're trying to convey as much of that person as possible, who they are, who their style is, you know, what their style is, I should say.
Which has nothing to do with the character, the costume design, all of that.
No,
totally
exactly.
Different. And then you've had like, with Keanu, with Robert Downey Jr., with Jason, you've had like 10-year relationships with these guys. What do you think the secret sauce is in maintaining long-term relationships with your clients?
So the thing that's interesting is actually with Keanu, it's been almost 22, 23 years. And I think it's because I'm always aware that in the end of the day, their face is this big in anything that they do. And my name is this big. So if you are aware of that and you're not trying to put your own agenda out, and you always try to be aware of servicing them in a way that is very cognizant of them, but also pulling them back when you think it's too crazy or pushing them forward when they need it. That's one of the main reasons why I've been able to last as long as I have, to be honest with you, and in no way criticizing other people who've been there. But a lot of people I've seen rise and fall in their career in terms of what they've done. And I would say that if you are so stuck on trends, you will find yourself, whatever you think that you're pushing as being the stylish, cool thing, just like that, your client will go, you're always going up and down. So just know you might not be there, because just like the up and downs, they're going to have up and downs. Whereas if you consistently push what that person is intrinsically and make them look better, then they will always want you around.
I think that's invaluable advice. Very, very good advice. Do you, when you're working, because you do work with so many sort of superheroes, does that influence anything in the way that you dress them, or is that completely doesn't come into
well, like, it does to a certain extent, like, because you're working with certain people, like, you know, Anthony Mackie or like Christian Bale, they can go from different sizes. Like Christian was like a 38 and then goes to a 42, depending on what the character is. So, or, you know, I mean, having done like the 3 different Spider-Mans, the Tom Holland and, you know, I mean, Andrew and Toby, there's different styles and different shapes that they are. And depending on the movie, like, you want them to be maybe more staid, a little bit more serious on certain press junkets because they're doing a more arty film rather than doing the superhero film. You know, when Christian was Batman, it was one thing, but when he's doing, you know, Cheney, it's another thing. Or when you're doing Downey as Iron Man, well, actually, what am I saying? With Downey as Iron Man, he's always Robert, no matter what. That's, I think, why he's the biggest movie star in the world. He's always been himself.
Yeah. I think this might be helpful too, to viewers out there, assistants, how do people become your assistant?
So the one thing I would say is that it's not fun because there's a lot of schlepping. And I have the most invaluable, amazing human being in the world right now working with me. And her name's Chloe Takiyanagi. She's worked with me for quite some time. But the one thing I would say is I've always had a few seconds and thirds assistants. I mean, when I did the Oceans shoot, it was like 5 or 6 people. The first 3 months of working with me, you don't get to work with or meet another celebrity. It is literally running back and forth to showrooms, picking things up, dropping things off. And a lot of people hate it and they think this is terrible. And I think, well, but that's what styling is.
I know.
It is schlepping.
Schlepping. So if someone's out there right now and they want to apply to assist for you, what do they do? Where do you look? Say if you were looking for new assistants, where would you?
I don't take on.
Word of mouth?
It's usually word of mouth through other people, and I don't like to. I mean, I've gotten to the point where I don't take on many new people. So the second or third person is somebody who's already been through and, you know, knows the ropes and knows where to go to Gucci or knows how to go pick up from, you know, the studio services department of someplace. I still once in a while, it's almost always through word of mouth, and they are somebody has assisted or done some other stuff for other people. And I think that hopefully the Wall Group will create this program so that way you can get people who are somewhat seasoned or not partially seasoned.
Absolutely, fair enough. And so what on that, we're gonna wrap it, and let's just leave everyone with your, same as Chris, kind of the best piece of advice you would give anybody entering in to the world of styling.
If you're going to enter into the world of styling, one of the things that I just recently told some college girls that I spoke to, or high school girls, do everything you possibly can. I mean, I assisted the top stylists in the world for commercials and music videos. Then I ended up doing hand model. I mean, I ended up getting jewelry for manicure shoots and did music videos and then did commercials for laundry. I mean, basically I assisted and did everything I possibly could. And I didn't have any judgment on it because every experience is a learning experience. And as a beginning stylist, my favorite story was my first big job was a red, white, and blue portfolio hedge fund, something or another. And the agency told me, we only want red, white, and blue. Don't bring yellow, don't bring purple, don't bring all these other colors. And stupidly, I only brought red, white, and blue. Just recently, a huge job. I was flown out to Florida for a gigantic car commercial, and literally the director, the agency, and the talent told me we only want black and white. But what was the first thing that was requested when I literally flew across the country with all this stuff, and I was out in the middle of nowhere? Do you have any blue shirts? Do you have any green shirts? Do you have any gray shirts? And I did. I had that because I knew, and it was kind of like it was a really sort of hilarious lesson, right? You know. Don't bring any other colors. We don't want to see any other colors.
Yeah,
I mean, literally, I was told that.
First thing they do is always be prepared.
Yes.
For
you know, a hair makeup artist can, like, hairstylists can, if they want it more 70s, they'll crimp the hair. They'll do the makeup crazy. But we cannot show up with a pair of flares. Just know, like, show a picture and say, are you sure you mean this? And even then bring extra.
Great advice. Be prepared. Bring the kitchen sink.
Exactly.
Okay, well, this is great. I don't know if people are going to ask questions. What's happening next, Nicole?
I'm back. I've got a couple of questions. We're gonna keep it pretty quick because I know we're a little bit short on time. I think a good follow-up to what you were just discussing, Jeanne, kind of being prepared for everything. What are the top items you need in your kit?
I think a few badass belts in different sizes, the best, most amazing t-shirts in pretty much all different colors, and great jeans, because it doesn't matter what you do. It's like, even if somebody says it's going to be a super formal dressy thing, a pair of jeans and a t-shirt always look great on somebody, male and female, or any gender. I mean, seriously, it's just easy.
Okay, and then one last question for both of you. You guys, pre-pandemic, traveling all over the world. Jeanne, you were with clients in a million different places. How do you balance work and life? What's the secret to that?
Jeanne, do you want to go first?
The biggest thing for me was I mean, partially, I went 75 days without a day off last year. The year before that, 115. I really wasn't balancing life. So I have the best, most amazing husband in the entire world. I try to have dinner as much as possible with my kids. Box breathing, which is basically inhale 4 times, hold it 4 times, let go 4 counts, and then count 4 counts. That's the only way you can do it, is breathe.
Box breathing. Box breathing.
I guess like the Navy SEALs do it. And it's literally when I've been told right now, like, here, can I tie your hands anymore? Like, we want this, 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 and this. Oh, and you have no budget, or you have this. I'm like, box breathing. That's what I'm just gonna do. I'm gonna box breathe, and hopefully it'll figure itself out.
I think that you have a personality that can juggle a lot of different things. Either you do or you don't. And being freelance and being pulled and going to so many different places and living out of suitcases, and we do that a little bit, from where we sit as managers or talent representation. But in general, I think you have to have the energy level and love what you do so much that the balance just flows. We're not launching space rockets, and we're not in hospitals saving lives. So we should enjoy what we do, take everything with a grain of salt, find time for our friends and families, and crush it every day. Just get out there and do your best.
Oh, and be grateful. Being grateful. I wake up in the morning and I'm like, thank you that I have work. Thank you that I get to do what I do. And thank you for having, I feel very grateful that I get to do what I, and that I'm working. I mean, there's a lot of people right now that are really struggling. And I feel very, very fortunate that I get to do what I do and have the amazing family and Wall Group behind me. It helps significantly. It's huge.
The perfect note. We are very grateful to you for taking the time to share some of your knowledge with us. Brooke, excellent job moderating. Chris wasn't able to stay. He had to run off, but a thank you to Chris as well. And we hope you guys enjoyed. Please, next month we'll be back with more. You can check out the schedule on thewallgroup.com or follow us on Instagram, and we'll keep you guys updated with what's next to come.
Wishing everyone luck out there.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.